If you don't plan, you're stupid.
Welcome back to If You Don't Plan, You're Stupid with Florida estate planning attorney Andrew Rosenberg. And he helps families protect their legacy and avoid legal chaos with plans that actually work. I'm your host, Evan Mack, and today we're talking about what happens to small businesses when the owner passes away or becomes incapacitated, and why estate planning isn't just about family asset, but also about keeping your business alive. Andy, sir, nice to meet you.
Hey, Evan, nice to meet you. Hope you're having a good Friday. I'm a little jet lagged from coming back from Japan, my friend.
Listen, we talked about it a little bit off camera, and I'm jealous of you, but I'm glad you're back. I'm sure you're jet lagged. You're all kinds of hours ahead, but we're gonna try to power through.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My stomach. I think I left in Japan too. Oh my God.
Today's episode is going to be business owners and estate planning. This is about what happens to your company if you're gone. Andy, if a Florida business owner dies without a plan in place, what happens to their company?
Well, it's a mess. That's what happens, Evan. Unfortunately, when we deal with businesses, it gets more complicated than dealing with like personal stuff, right?
Mm,
So if like I'm married, right, and I have kids and all that, and I have my estate plan in place, and I also own a business. I have my own law firm, and so it gets a little more complicated if I were to pass away, or if I become incapacitated as to how things get handled with the business. So there's what I want to tell you is, as obviously there's different types of businesses that we need to kind of address.
right.
So I'm going to quickly go through them for you. We got a sole proprietorship, we got corporations, we got partnerships, and we got limited liability companies, or LLCs. Those are the four types of of ownership that we're talking about if you own a business. So if you die without any kind of an estate plan whatsoever for your business, it's going to be a mess, like I said, no matter what you have, what type of business. So the sole proprietor, when a proprietor is when someone dies and they have a sole proprietor, there is no business. I mean,
Mm,
there's no corporation, there's no S or C corp or LLC or anything. They just open up a business and started doing business in their name. And when they die, the business dies with them. And so it's going to go through probate court if they don't have a proper estate plan in place. And that's what's going to happen with a sole proprietor situation. Now, with a corporation, it becomes a little more complicated because now we own a business as far as like corporate shares. So if you own a business and it's a corporation, an S corp or C corp, you're going to own shares of a company. You might own 100% of the shares. You
mhm.
might own 25% because there's three other partners or whatever it might be, but you're going to own shares of a company. So what happens when you pass away with a corporation? Well, it's a problem because now the if I pass away and I'm a 25% owner of a corporation, the shares are in my name alone. And so now we got to deal with probate issues. And that's a whole nightmare. And so that's a concern that we have to deal with on the corporate side. On the LLC side, or limited
Mm,
liability side, it depends also. It's the same concept in that I own a business, part owner of a business in an LLC. Then instead of owning shares of a company in a corporation, with an LLC, you're going to own membership interest. That's just the
mm.
difference. That's what we call it. It's the same concept, but it's called membership interest. And again, when I did pass away, that's going to go through probate court. But what's going to control is the operating agreement for an LLC. So if there's a proper operating agreement, at least it's going to tell us who's in control of the company. And the same is true of a partnership. If you own a partnership, if there's a partnership agreement, the partnership agreement is going to control how the assets will go when you pass away. That still doesn't mean, Kevin, that we're not going to go through probate court with those things. And we can talk
Mm.
about that in a little bit. But I don't know if I confused you or not. But in summary, sole proprietorship, you're going through the courts and probate no matter what, and the business dies. Corporation, we got shares that we got to deal with. LLC, we have membership interest we got to deal with. And then a partnership, We have partnership interests that we have to deal with. And then the question becomes, in a partnership, do you have a partnership agreement that would control things? And then if you have a LLC, you have an operating agreement that would control things. Does that help answer it in somewhat, or is that confuse the issue more?
The summary is where when I was like, okay, I got you. So how does estate planning help make sure a business can keep running instead of shutting down overnight?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because here's the problem. And this is the crux of this whole podcast today, in my opinion. We're going to use you and I as an example, Evan. You and I own a business together, okay? And we have a corporation. You own 50% of the shares, I own 50% of the shares, and I drop dead. The question becomes, what happens to my 50% of the shares, right? Well, if we have no estate plan in place, the 50% of the shares are in my name alone. And Andy Rosenberg. Andy Rosenberg owns 500 of 1,000 shares. Okay, we got a total of 1,000 shares. I own 500 shares in my name alone, in Andrew G. Rosenberg, right? I die. Unfortunately, those shares are now going to go through probate court because it's in my name alone. So if you have an asset, it's like we've talked about in all the other podcasts before, Evan. If you have an asset and you pass away and it's in your name alone and there's no beneficiary to it, it's got to go through the court system in order for it to be legally transferred. So if you and I own a business together and I drop dead and I don't have an estate plan in place, you won't be able to do anything with the business for the 50% ownership because it's going through my probate. It's going through my estate, which is a nightmare. So what happens is it causes all sorts of problems with the business because now everything's kind of delayed and you lose control of things, etc. So estate planning plays a vital key in this, because let's say now that I had an estate plan. I did my trust and my will and my durable. I did all these documents and I transferred my 500 shares into my revocable trust. Now I die. Well, now the trust is the owner of my 500 shares, and there's no probate court because the trust avoids probate. And now the trustee or manager of the trust can sell the shares to you, or whatever happens, or however it gets decided upon for my 500 shares. So that's the difference between having an estate plan in place and not having one in place when it comes to a business. The real key to all this, Evan, Evan, is a business plan. Having a business plan in place is different than having an estate plan in place. So that's really what's really important here. So an estate plan, Evan, is dealing with your individual stuff, dealing with your will, dealing with your healthcare surrogate, dealing with your durable power, dealing with your trust and all that stuff, and making sure everything is organized and won't go through the court system and will go smoothly if you pass away. That's the estate plan. Part of that estate plan, if you own a business, should be a business succession plan. What is that? You and I are in business together, right, Evan? We said we're in business together.
Right.
The business succession plan is an agreement between you and I as business owners as to what happens if I pass away. Because if I pass away right now and we're in business together and I have my shares of my company in my name alone, or I have it in the trust and we don't have a business plan in place, you're going to go into business with my spouse. Because my spouse is going to get the ownership of the 500 shares of the company. So now the question becomes, Evan, do you want to become a business partner with my spouse? And probably you don't want to. And that's the purpose of having a business succession plan in place. Because what a business succession plan is doing is it's agreement between you and I as business owners to say, If one of us dies, then the survivor has a right to buy the shares of the company from the deceased family, and in return, you have to pay a certain amount of money to get the shares in place, and then now you own 100% of the business at that point. So that's why a business succession plan is vitally important. I will tell you, I've been doing business for 30 plus years as an estate and elder law attorney.
Wow.
The amount of people that have businesses with partners that have a business succession plan in place is slim to none.
Wow.
It's very rare to see someone do that, unfortunately.
Mm.
Very rare.
So why can maybe probate be damaging for a business?
So probate is a problem because of a few things. So I like to use you and I as the example, so it helps explain it a little bit better.
Yeah.
I have to visualize. I don't know if that helps you, Evan, or
Yeah, it
not.
does.
Okay. So I die. It's in my 500 shares of the company with you. My shares are going through probate court because it's in my name alone. The problem is a couple things. One is probate takes a long time. Okay. So it's got to go through a court process, and that court process is called probate court. So it could take a long time. And the problem with it taking a long time is that could affect the business. And you're now the sole owner of the business of 50% of it. But the other 50% is going through the probate process, right? So what happens if you have to make decisions? You may not have the legal authority to make decisions for 100% of the company because you don't own 100% of the company.
Right.
So it could affect your customers, because if you're buying supplies for a company or whatever, and you need to buy supplies, etc., you may not be able to do that because you don't have anything in place saying that you have control to be able to make those decisions. You might have to have decisions made with my spouse because it's going through probate court. So one is it could cause all sorts of delays. Two is it's going to take time and cost money to deal with that whole process because it's dealing with someone like me, an attorney, and dealing with the courts and all that stuff. The other problem is that the assets, again, might not be going where they want to be going as you as the surviving business owner. Now, all of a sudden, because there's no plan in place and it's going through probate, you have now become a partner with a spouse in this situation. You probably don't want to become partners with the spouse, but now you're dealing with it. So it could cause all sorts of other problems with running the business. And, who's going to make decisions? Now you got the spouse and you got you. And so who makes all these decisions? Now you got to cooperate together. What happens if you guys don't get along? Well, then now all of a sudden it could cause problems with the business. The customers may not feel comfortable working with the business. The employees might not feel comfortable working for the business because of the uncertainty of what's going on with the business. You may lose employees, all sorts of problems. It's just a disaster.
Right.
And so what happens more often than not is a lot of times the business closes because it has to be liquidated. Yeah. Yeah. It has to be liquidated for two reasons. One is because the business is just not doing well now because now it's a mess from the death of one of the partners. But two, what happens if the surviving spouse says, I want to get paid, I want my money out of the business, and you don't have the funds to pay for it?
Mhm.
How are you going to pay for that? Well, guess what?
Got to sell the business.
You got to sell the business.
Hmm.
So that's the problem. So the question is how do you solve that problem? All right. And that's, again, it's a topic, but not a topic in the podcast, the business succession plan.
So you're talking about businesses, but how can business owners protect company assets so they don't kind of get mixed up with their personal estate?
Yeah, so that's really important. So, the sole proprietorships, it's hard, okay, because you really don't have a separate entity. The main way to protect yourself, if you're worried about personal liability and things of that nature, is number one, have a separate entity, right? So that means filing with the state of Florida. We're in Florida. So filing in the state of Florida corporation and creating a separate corporation, or filing for a limited liability company or a partnership with the state of Florida. So number one is create a separate entity. Number two, open up business accounts. Have accounts open in the name of the corporation and treat it as a corporation. So try not to commingle assets and expenses with get a business credit card for the company, and things of that nature. Those are ways to try and keep things a little bit more organized so that it keeps it separate and you don't get pulled in for personal liability. And you want to also try and do corporate records every year as well to update it, so it shows that you're running a legitimate business.
Mm. So, what steps should Florida business owners take with powers of attorney or these operating agreements?
Okay, so every business owner needs to have probably trust work put in place to avoid probate court, like we talked
Yep.
about. And then they need to also have a durable power of attorney put in place, because we've been talking about what happens, Evan, when we pass away, right? But what happens if we don't pass away? What happens if one of us as a partner becomes disabled, gets in a horrible car accident, and we're on life support? I mean, God forbid, something of that nature. Um, you know, now what? Who can deal with my 500 shares if I'm incapacitated? Now we got a whole separate court. So when you pass away, it's probate court, and if you become disabled or incapacitated, it's guardianship court. So the durable power is meant to avoid that. So the durable power will hopefully name maybe you as the surviving partner to handle my partnership shares of the. We could do a limited power of attorney for you to handle the partnership side, and then we could do a general durable power of attorney for my spouse to handle everything else, and we can kind of separate it out so that it continues. So that's why it's really important for any business owner out there. You need to have your personal estate plan put into place, and then which includes a will, a trust, and all these other things, but it also includes, vitally important, the durable power of attorney if you become incapacitated or disabled.
And finally, for business owner listening today, what's the first thing they should do to protect both their company as well as their family?
Number one, make sure you have a proper entity set up. If you have a business, make sure it's properly set up. So I would tell all my clients, talk to your CPA is the first thing.
Yeah.
Talk to your CPA and say, hey, listen, I have an idea for a business. I want to do something. What do you think? And they'll say, yeah, that's a great idea. They're going to tell you, kind of steer you. I have a CPA, and my CPA was the guy that told me, I want you to set up the company this way. So I would talk to your CPA first in tangent with your estate planning attorney or business attorney. Okay. And the two of them combined work as a team to determine what needs to be done. So if the CPA and the attorney says, let's set up a corporation, set up that entity. So
Right.
number one, set the entity up properly. Number two, keep proper records and billing and everything separate for the entity. Number three, make sure you have a separate business credit card account to keep things organized and separate for the business. The whole purpose of all of this is to make sure that we keep the business separate from your personal life. So that if you get sued business-wise, they can only come after your business assets and not come after everything else. So that's really the key in regards to keeping everything organized. Real quick, because I know we're running short on time, a proper business succession plan, which we've talked about, deals with, when we're in partnerships or business with other people, deals with if the person dies, if the person becomes incapacitated,
Right.
if the person becomes convicted maybe of a felony and you want them out, it's not good for the business. Those are maybe the person becomes disabled or incapacitated and you want them out. So those are triggers for a proper succession plan for the surviving partner to buy out the other person that is disabled or passed away or got convicted of a felony, etc. And then there's proper insurance for those succession plans. There's literally life insurance, disability insurance just meant for that purpose alone. And that's how you fund it, so that you don't have to liquidate the business when someone passes away. You have the life insurance, and the disability insurance will come due and payable when it's needed to pay off the surviving spouse and family. So you get 100% of the business, and then you can move on, and you've washed your hands of it with the family.
Good stuff. Mr. Rosenberg, sir, appreciate the time.
Yeah, I hope I didn't bore the crap out of you, Evan.
Oh, I'm hanging in there. I was locking in. Listen, I got to listen so I can know what the heck's going on.
Well, thanks for having me today.
All righty, and that's it for today's episode. And if you don't plan, you're stupid. Online forms might save you some money today, but they can cost your family thousands tomorrow. If you've made your own will or trust and aren't sure if it's valid in the state of Florida, visit rosenberglawfirm.net to get it reviewed before it's too late. Don't forget to review, subscribe, and share the show with someone that might find this information helpful as well. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Kevin, and go Hoosiers. They're number 2
wow,
in the country.
Wow, I didn't see that coming.
Go Hoosiers. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.